Now, this subject that's got a lot of you talking this morning. Nearly 9,000 people a year are admitted to hospital with severe dog bites in England. Last year alone, 10 people died following a dog attack, which is the highest on record.
Yeah, with incidents on the rise, is it time to get tough on dog owners and make them all sit a mandatory responsibility course? Of course, there are two particular stories, aren't there, in the last couple of weeks. We had the dog walker, who had a number of dogs.
It was 8, wasn't it?
And then was killed. And then we had the child, little girl, killed in her back garden. And so, obviously, the focus is on, is it the fault of the dogs? Is it the fault of the owners? Is it the fault of those who are handling the dogs? Is it actually no one's fault at all? Joining us now, dog behaviourist Nancy Creedon. Now, Nancy has a degree in zoology and a master's in animal behaviour and welfare and says, put yourself on a responsibility course before you buy a dog. And Nick Eade is here with his dog, Beverly. And, Nick, you don't think that you need to be trained before you own a dog?
No, not at all. I think, listen, we've had dogs for hundreds of thousands of years and we've all known how to actually deal with them, look after them. I think as somebody who had dogs when I was younger, I was really taught from a very young age about how to look after dogs and how to make sure that they're OK amongst other people.
That's interesting. You have been trained in how to look after
by my
a
family.
Dog. By your family, haven't you?
Yeah, but it's a generational thing. I think most people have had dogs. If you think about the population, there's 13 million dog owners out there, and 9,000 people have been, obviously, affected by dogs who aren't particularly friendly. But if you look at the statistics there, or the average, it's pretty small.
And your dog is called? Beverly. And Beverly always this well-behaved?
She's the best-behaved dog in Britain, I think, at the moment.
Of course she is. Of course she is, Nick. I mean, it's an interesting thing, Nancy, isn't it? Because you could look at Beverly, and Beverly looks delightful, friendly, wouldn't cause any issues. But there are dogs out there that aren't quite as well-behaved as Beverly and could do with some sort of guidance. Certainly the owners could do with some sort of guidance on how to keep the dogs like Beverly.
I guess what we need to remember is every time a dog bites, it's usually the first time that dog's bitten. So just because we're looking at our dogs in our homes and saying, my dog's an angel, butter wouldn't melt, until something goes wrong. And the reason I'm proposing mandatory education is to see the triggers. There'll always be triggers. I'm sure Beverly doesn't enjoy getting groomed if she's got tangles in her hair. I'm sure if a little child went to do the same thing at the same time, that may upset Beverly. There's always situations that every dog will bite in. All I want to do is educate people on how to predict these situations to minimise dog bites.
You own a Rottweiler German Shepherd mix. Now, those are two breeds that people have often an instinctive negative reaction
Traditionally
to.
guard dogs as well, aren't they?
They serve a purpose. What is your dog like? And how much training do you think someone should have before they own one?
I think that for every breed of dog, it's essential that people understand what they're doing with their dogs. And the common theme that I find with dog owners that come to me for professional advice and training is that when they leave the training session, their eyes are open, they now understand their dog so much better. And quite often there's a lot of guilt that, oops, I misunderstood my dog in the past. I've done the wrong things in the past. Now that I know better, I will do better. And like you've said, when it comes to breeds like Rottweilers, like German Shepherds, like Pit Bulls, often people think of these breeds and feel fear because the media is continually using these breeds as the scary dog. In Beethoven, we've got Dobermans as the scary dog. In the cartoon movie Up, we've got the Dobermans, we've got the Rottweilers, we've got the Bulldogs as the scary dog.
But any dog could be a scary dog.
Every dog can be a scary dog when out of control.
Nick, clearly Beverly is very well behaved, but have you been in a scenario where a dog has come running up to you and has been aggressive, or you and Beverly, or attacked Beverly in some capacity?
Yeah, I have been in those situations.
And at that point, are you not thinking, why is this dog not on a lead, or why is the owner not taking some sort of responsibility for it?
I think it's really important that if you are in a situation which is public, dogs should be on the lead in most of those situations. But I think to your case with regards to actually making sure that everybody is educated or trained, first of all, it's going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
And the cost of living, people can't even afford some of their food for their dogs. So they need to think about that as a priority.
Yeah, it would cost money, of course, and it's admin, isn't it?
Yeah.
And perhaps it would stop some rescue dogs being rescued if you had to have training.
Well, when we look at the driving theory test, it's £23. and it'll be the exact same model that we could copy
to do a dog theory
test. So the concept will be that the education will be freely available on a governmental website. Then you go into your driving theory test centre and you do your responsible dog ownership theory test.
Then it would need to be policed,
£23.
of course. Nancy, I just wonder, what for someone who wants to own a dog, or perhaps for someone who took on a dog in lockdown, what are the top things you think that currently dog owners don't understand that you would train them in?
My number one go-to always with educating dog owners is what you need to understand is when your dog becomes hyper, what happens is their body changes from the parasympathetic nervous system state to the sympathetic nervous system state. What happens then is the dog is going into panic mode, into fight or flight mode, even if they're having fun and they're hyper. When your dog is in that hyper state, every dog becomes dangerous. Their threat interpretation is reduced, their motor control is inhibited, and they're not going to think rationally. They're going to behave quite instinctually. So my go-to at all times is hyper dogs need to be interrupted and calmed back down, especially around children.
Absolutely.
Well, Judy on Twitter says, my daughter and I were in a park and the dog approached barking. The owner had little control, was shouting at my daughter to stop crying. She was 4 years old. After the owner left, a woman came up to me and said that the dog bit her just the previous week. Chris says, went out with all dogs should be on a lead and required to wear a muzzle. All dogs, no exceptions. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, Nick, that you've got Beverly there who
wouldn't say boo to a goose.
Looks adorable, but there will be occasion. I mean, has she ever nipped you?
She's never nipped me. She's never been aggressive. She's a very... Look at her. She's...
I know. As if she could. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Beverly. And Nancy, your advice is so important.
It is, it's really important.
Yeah, and while many people might not agree with actual mandatory training, just simply that, you know, understand your dog's behaviour and what to do about it. Such an important message.
Thank you both. And very well behaved, Beverly. The best behaved guest we've had on the show today.
Yeah.